Give it a chance. It's an effort.
Okay. Hello, Johan.
Hello, Nako.
Great to have you back. Just 2 days ago was the last time we spoke about Greece, and now today, July 13th, 2015, we have an agreement. And the agreement apparently puts Greece back in the position in which it was before the referendum. So, what are we to make of this? And is this agreement going to last?
Let us first point out that last time you interviewed me was Saturday.
Exactly.
My prediction was that they would arrive at an agreement. They actually now call it an agreement,
Yes.
what they call it. And they would arrive at that. And they arrived at it, and it was more or less what I expected. The
It was
third
to
bailout
predict there.
being made available. The conditions for the Greek economy are stricter than ever, but there will be no Brexit. If you want my comment to it, it's the following. Nothing has happened. It's a third bailout. The debt, to use IMF terminology, is not sustainable. The society has been basically destroyed. There is no way in which they can, given the conditions they'll be working under, produce economic growth. That's the basic point. In order to produce economic growth for Greece, something has to come from the outside. And I'm going to give three answers to that question.
Okay.
But let me first repeat very clearly. There is no Brexit. And it was particularly France and Italy who were standing up, if you will, for the idea of keeping the Eurozone together. Point two, there is a bailout. A lot of money made available. And I assume that that money will be paid to IMF for what they due, euro 1.7 billion. And what comes due to the Eurozone, the Eurogroup, which, as far as I remember, is euro 3.5 billion this coming Sunday. The condition, however, is today, as you pointed out, is July 13, that by July 15, the Greek parliament has built the conditions into law. Now, there's no way in which a democracy with a debate can decently do that. So that means it's stuffed down their throats. A point that has been made by several parliamentarians from the Green parties and several others. But leaving that aside, I do not see the situation as hopeless because I don't think that we are dealing with a zero-sum game between two parties. Let's call it the Eurogroup, and Greece, and with IMF in the kind of ambiguous situation. They want their money back, and they have been pressed, as far as I can understand, to be the creditor part that will be responsible for getting the credits, getting the debts paid.
Yeah.
In other words, they will be sort of on the spot, driving in the money. Now, on the other hand, since they don't believe officially, according to the article in The Guardian, that the debt is sustainable, I think they must have a rather split, divided mind right now. And I'm almost seeing it in the facial expression of the boss, Lagarde. Now, having said that, we are in a situation which is kind of interesting, and I'm looking forward to your question.
Well, to me, the main question remains the same, which is the motto of this program, which is, does this solve the underlying conflict, Johan? Does this solve the underlying conflicts in plural, in fact?
There are so many conflicts here. So one is, of course, between the hardliners in EU. Number one being Germany. Then you have Spain, Portugal, Ireland, with conservative governments, and Finland is a party to them. They have the problem that they don't trust Greece, and I can understand them. But I don't think it's a question psychologically. I think it's more the question of whether Greece will be able to do it under the conditions the society is working under. So that is one rather basic conflict. Then you have the conflict inside Greece, in the Syriza party. Tsipras now, Alexis now, has the unenviable job of trying to explain that this was the best he could make. We are still in the Eurozone, we haven't exited, and the majority of Greeks want to stay in the Eurozone. But at the same time, there is no end to austerity. Because if you look at the conditions, they're very tough on pensions, which in a sense I can understand. Because many people who were unemployed opted for early retirement in order to get into the pension scheme. They want to get them out of it, or they want to reduce the pension seriously. Now, the second point, of course, in the bailout conditions has to do with labor relations. They're very skeptical about collective bargaining, which is also known as trade unions.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Let's make it very clear. What are in the conditions is conservative neoliberal economic ideology.
And
The party before the Syriza party shared that, so they had no difficulty with the ideology. They had difficulty complying with it.
exactly.
Syriza, of course, has rejected that ideology, but here comes the sticky point. That neoliberal conservative economic ideology is built into the European Union Constitution from the 1990s. It was done at a period when the European leaders were absolutely mesmerized by what they interpreted as American economic success.
Yes.
And it looked like that to the uninformed, because they didn't see the underlying fragile structure. But anyhow, it looked like that, so they simply wrote American neoliberal ideology into the Constitution.
How
Now,
do
the
you,
Constitution, as far as I can understand, the Constitution should be about human rights or something like that. And then providing the platform in a parliament and in general for debating the economic system, but not write one particular position into the Constitution. But of course it strengthens the hand of the conservatives, the neoliberals, and I have mentioned the names.
how do you explain the tension, in a sense, between the French and the German position with regards to how Tsipras handled it? Because, of course, this was a French sort of initiative, and today and last night with Schäuble presenting this option of Grexit, intermediary Grexit, was quite shocking to a lot of people that Germany would go that far.
It was kind of creative, though. I'll give them a plus for creativity. It was a third option. But of course, François Hollande came out immediately and said, there is no such thing. It is either Grexit or no Grexit, and we stand for no Grexit because we want to keep the Eurozone together. You see, let us look at the French position. They sent a delegation to help the Greeks edit, put together their position. And how they did that, nobody was a party to it, and I'm not particularly interested or concerned. But the point about it is that for them, since they see the European Union as pensé par les Français, payé pour les Allemands, thought out by the French and paid by the Germans, was an old kind of thing they have been saying for years. And they have nothing against the Germans paying quite a lot for it, but that's their intellectual property. They think. They're not giving up that.
This is the Monet-Schumann shadow.
That's exactly it. But it is, and you know that one is, after all, back to the end of the 1940s, and what Monet-Schumann did was an act of genius. They simply said that Nazi Germany has been so atrocious that Germany, dropping the word Nazi, has to become a member of the family. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I am not very generous with that certificate, but I've done it very often for Monet-Schumann. And then there are all kinds of details which one can ask about. all kinds of questions. And in the state system, everything is ambiguous and everything is manipulative and everything is this and that. But nevertheless, something is better than other things, and this was a good